Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2010 Subaru Outback. Up front is a 2.5 liter flat 4 and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission.
This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US.
But let's get back to that 2.5 liter flat 4. Well, flat 4 engines, if you don't know, this is very much a Subaru thing. Instead of the pistons going up and down in a line, like an inline 4, they go out to the sides. It's a flat 4, keeps the center of gravity lower, and this is just kind of Subaru's thing at this point. Now, it is naturally aspirated. This is not actually a turbo engine, which is fine. I thought that it was going to feel down on power. It really actually doesn't feel down on power. I drove a 2003, I believe, Subaru Forester with a flat 4, 2.5 liter naturally aspirated, and that fell on its face. You had to beat the ever-living snot out of it to get any sort of fast or athletic feeling out of that, and that's not the case here. I think it is partially helped out by the manual transmission, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's actually a 2.5 liter, it's known as the 2.5i, that doesn't fall flat on its face. It's really actually kind of fun. Now, is it going to blow the doors off of a Lamborghini? No. Is it going to get you a record at Great Lakes Dragway? No. But it offers a good amount of power. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed manual transmission, and this is a very interesting part because I didn't actually know that this body style of Subaru Outback actually had a manual transmission offered. As you guys know, today, here in 2020, they actually no longer offer manual transmissions in vehicles like this. The Outback doesn't get a manual. I don't believe the Legacy gets a manual, at least here in the US. You want to call it a mount car, you want to call it a daily car, you want to call it a station wagon, whatever it is, you could still get this in a base model with a manual transmission, and that is really, really neat, and I really, really like that. Shift feel is pretty good. It's not super spot on. It's not sports car Miata click, click, click into place, but it does the job pretty well, and I can't complain at all about it. The clutch is pretty stiff. It's a lot stiffer than I thought it would be, which is, I guess, interesting. I just more so didn't see it coming. But that being said, it's not hard to drive. Now, last but not least about the drivetrain is, of course, that this has all-wheel drive. This is Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Almost every single Subaru is all-wheel drive. I mean, it's very hard to find non-all-wheel drive Subarus this day and age besides the BRZ. The BRZ, of course, is a rear-wheel drive sports car. But besides that, it's very hard to find really any Subarus that were two-wheel drive besides that. As you can tell, I'm driving through a lot of sleet and slush, which is why the all-wheel drive is actually really great. The symmetrical all-wheel drive performs flawlessly in snow and slush and sleet. And so here in the Midwest, that's a big deal. You know, almost half the year here is spent in cold, damp, or rather unfavorable conditions. And so I think that's why vehicles like this really shine in states like this, because this will never leave you stranded. But I'll save my rant for the end of the video. Let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 main gauge pods. On the far left is actually an MPG gauge. Then I have my tachometer on the left, speedometer on the right, fuel on the far right, and then a little information screen up in the middle just giving me my odometer. On the steering wheel, I do have volume up and down, track up and down, mode, and mute on the left, and on the right, just my cruise control options. Very basic, but the steering wheel looks pretty nice, and I like it a lot. It's not leather wrapped, it's plastic, but it is what it is. To the left of me, I have a bunch of buttons, and one that I absolutely hate. So I do have my power mirror buttons, my dimmer switch, an incline button.
So this is actually the hill assist button, and what it does is when you press it, it'll actually hold the brake for you a little bit if you are on a hill, so the car doesn't immediately roll back. Because Subarus are used off-road a lot, this is an awesome, awesome feature, especially with the manual transmission. It'll hold you for a little bit so you don't go rolling down the hill as soon as you put the clutch in.
Traction control off, a dead switch, and the part that I absolutely hate, the power parking brake. Yes. This is a power parking brake. Normally, I don't complain too much about power parking brakes. It's not that big of a deal to me. Cadillac was one of the first cars that I drove that had this feature, and I thought, okay, that's fine, whatever. My Mazda CX-5 has a power parking brake. All right, cool, sure, whatever, it's fine. But this is a manual transmission car, and so you actually do have to rely on the parking brake. And so this is where I start to hate it, because you have to put the clutch in, hit the button, then it goes beep, and then you're in park. It's just so obnoxious. And just give me a physical parking brake. It's unsatisfactory just hitting a button, first of all. And second of all, waiting for like a little light to make sure, like, it leaves uncertainty on the table, and it's not satisfying. That's it. That's why I hate the power parking brake. And unfortunately, I have it here in the Outback. Then on the door, I just have my power windows, power locks, very casual stuff. In the center, I do have a little digital clock, outside temperature, current MPG. So I really have 2 MPG gauges, which is interesting. You know, Subaru's never really been a push for economy sort of car. It's interesting to find 2 MPG gauges within eyesight. Then I have a very, very late 2000s radio. It is what it is. Personally, I would swap this out if I could, but I do have an aux, so I can plug in an aux cord, which is sort of nice. Then I have a cubby hole and my climate controls. Nothing really too crazy about the climate controls, although they are just very small. They're just like sizably, like legitimately small. Then I have the shifter. The shifter looks great. It looks very much like it's supposed to be there, and I absolutely like that. Like I said, it feels pretty good. Now below that, I do have a little coin tray. This is where you would normally find your heated seat options if you got a higher trim. But then with the higher trims, I don't believe that they offered the 6-speed manual. So you can get a manual, or you can have nice features, essentially. Then I have 2 cup holders and a center console. Now the seats are pretty comfortable. I unintentionally sort of color matched with them, but they're pretty comfortable. They're tan. Most of the interior is tan, and I don't mind it too much. It looks decently clean. I think it's a little worn though. The tan interiors, they look great new, but sometimes they don't age quite as well. But speaking of seats, we actually do have back seats, so let's do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2010 Subaru Outback, and headroom, great. Legroom, really great. This is huge. This is absolutely huge, because Subarus of yesteryear, mid-2000s, late 90s, had horrible back seats, so bad. I test drove a 1997 Legacy Wagon, horrible. I reviewed an 05 and an 08 Legacy, both a wagon and a sedan, horrible back seats. I did a 2002 Subaru Outback, not great back seats, but this is great. This is my driving position. I'm not even having a prayer of touching the front seat with my legs. Absolutely great. There's a little bit of stadium seating, and what I mean by that is these seats are higher than the front seats, so I can kind of see up and over the driver and passenger, which is really, really cool, and it creates a more involved rear passenger experience, because oftentimes, you know, it's so easy to forget about the people in the back seat, that this kind of helps even that out and everything like that. I have a little cubby hole, power windows, I guess. I think I have a center console. Yep, just 2 cup holders. Everything else is, you know, in this sort of beige. Let's hop around the hatch and we'll take a look at the hatch, and then we'll talk about the looks. Big choo-choo train. Okay, so to open up the hatch, all you have to do is there's a little button under here. It is not power assisted, so you do have to lift it yourself. But obviously we have the typical Subaru stuff back here, ice scraper, stuff like that, and your good old black ice. But nice Subaru mat. There's no real power outlets that I see, but there's like this would be for a privacy cover. But there's like tie downs up front here. Little hatch down here. Very nice. I mean, it's very, very large. Very nice. You know, you can be able to fit anything you want in here, and those seats do go down. So really, I mean, you have a good maybe 6 or 7 feet to work with. So I'd say right now this is, you know, a really big size. I don't know exactly how long it is. I'd say probably like 3 to 4 feet maybe. So really, really nice trunk. Now we got to talk about the looks. I'm not the biggest fan of this generation of Outback based off looks. I think the previous generations looked better, and that's just my own personal opinion. That's not to say that this is a bad looking SUV or wagon or whatever you want to call it. It's not an SUV. I don't know why I said that. Whatever you want to call this, it's not bad looking, but it's more mundane. Subarus of yesteryear used to be really, really weird. They had big obnoxious wings and hood scoops. They sounded weird. The flat fours don't really sound like regular engines. I mean, the whole thing is just, it was a little bit of a Hollywood show when you would drive a Subaru. But this, besides the manual transmission, this isn't really that weird. I mean, it has a little bit of that Subaru rumble because of the flat 4, but that's also due to an exhaust leak. But I think now these just kind of look like every other station wagon. They're not out there. They're not, different and weird. They're just cars. But getting to my point, my final sort of ending point with the Subaru Outback is the fact that these cars are great. They are absolutely great. It's very hard to beat a Subaru just because their all-wheel drive systems, first of all, are spot on. Like you guys could see, it's snowy, it's slushy, it's cold. I couldn't even really leave the house last night because my car is two-wheel drive. There are nights like that. I wouldn't have been impeded last night had I had a Subaru, had I had something with all-wheel drive. It really is a game changer. And I know people will say like, oh, a two-wheel drive car with snow tires is better than a four-wheel drive car with regular tires. Whatever. Shut up. It's nice to have all-wheel drive. If I was going over to fight someone, I would rather have 4 friends with me than 2. Strength in numbers really, really comes true when it talks about all-wheel drive versus two-wheel drive. It's a numbers game, really. But these cars are just down for anything. They can and will do anything. They have great trunk space, like I showed. They have great rear leg room, like I showed. They have all-wheel drive. These cars can and will do anything. They are beasts off-road. They are beasts on-road. They're just overall great cars. If you can find one that isn't rusted out, I would highly recommend it as a good daily driver, especially if you live anywhere in the Rust Belt or north, anywhere where you get snow, where you get sleet, where a lot of the days of the year you're stuck inside, or anywhere you might have a snow day. If you live in any of those areas, a Subaru is a smart choice because it won't leave you stranded. And while the owner has told me, Trevor, which thank you, Trevor, so much for letting me take out your Outback, it has had some recalls. I had to get some sensors fixed recently. I had to wait on this review just a week or so Trevor could get some of the stuff fixed on the car, like the sensors that went bad, and a wheel bearing went bad, which is to be expected at 155,000 miles. It's going to require maintenance like a regular car, if not a tiny bit more, but it comes with that beautiful price of it can do anything. It's a very useful piece of equipment, and very useful pieces of equipment require maintenance. And the reason I bring this up is people often say, well, my Subaru needed this, my Subaru needed that, they're unreliable, they're stupid. Whatever it may be, it's really not the case. It's just when you can do everything, it gets broken more often. It's like that friend that goes to every single social gathering, is everywhere, is doing all the time. They need rest more than anyone. And that's the Subaru Outback. They just need more rest because they can do more. They have a higher ceiling for opportunity. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Trevor for letting me take out his Outback. He's awesome, good friend of mine, and he's actually a fellow RX-7 owner. So, gotta show love for a fellow rotary guy. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really like it. Take care, guys.
Aside from my soul.